You're watching Let the Quran Speak. Are Islam and democracy compatible? This question is asked again and again. The Quran refers to shura, the notion of public consultations, which suggests that all individuals within a society have the right to participate in the running of public affairs. What does shura really mean? How is it implemented? How close is it to our understanding of democracy? And is a government illegitimate if it doesn't operate according to shura? Here with me, Dr. Shabir Ali, President of the Islamic Information Center. Brother Shabir, tell us where the notion of shura is mentioned in the Quran.
Well, it's mentioned in the 42nd chapter, which incidentally is also called the chapter of shura because of the prominence of this particular item mentioned in that chapter. It says, وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ, describing the believers. The Quran says here that their affairs or their government is according to consultation among them. So that places the idea of consultation in a very high stature, in a very high status. Also in the Quran, in the 3rd chapter, in the 159th verse, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, himself is commanded to seek the opinions of his companions, and the same root word, or a word based on the same root is mentioned there, where he is being commanded, وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ, and consult them in the affair, or in the matter of government. The fact that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, himself will be commanded by God to seek the opinions of the people is quite telling, because from his position as prophet, he could easily say, look, I am a recipient of divine revelation, I am the prophet of God, you all have to just simply listen to me. But in matters in which he was not specifically directed by God to do something, he would ask the opinions of his companions, and then he would decide what to do.
Can you give us examples of some of those circumstances? In what situations did he ask for people's opinions?
Sometimes the opinions were given even when he didn't ask. Like, for example...
So he wasn't an intimidating figure that sort of ruled from above. He was with the people, and they felt comfortable approaching him and expressing their opinion.
Exactly, which is for us today unreal, because given the level of devotion and the level of respect that Muslims generally hold for the Prophet, peace be upon him, now that he is absent from our present circles, we would find it odd that people address the Prophet, peace be upon him, in the way that we find in many of the Islamic traditions. On one occasion, the Prophet, peace be upon him, recommended to a girl that she marries a certain man. And the girl or woman said to him, well, are you saying this as a result of divine revelation, or is that just your opinion? And he said, it's just my opinion. The lady said, well, in that case, I don't need your opinion. And of course, that sounds a little bit rude and harsh, the response, but nevertheless, that sets the tone, or at least it establishes the rule that a woman has the free choice to marry a person of her choice, and that she cannot be coerced or intimidated even by a person of authority. Even the Prophet's opinion does not carry a weight in this matter. On other occasions, we see that the Prophet, peace be upon him, received some suggestions, and he followed through with them from the part of his companions. When the Muslims were threatened by an allied force that was strong enough to wipe them all out, in Medina, the city of the Prophet, peace be upon him, received a suggestion from Salman, the Persian, who said that the best way of defense is to dig a ditch on the possible route that the enemy would advance through. And when they did that, that is how the Muslim city was saved from this allied force. On another occasion, the Prophet, peace be upon him, was marching with his companions, and they were short of rations. And the Prophet offered the edict that they were to start slaughtering the animals, and therefore, they will have something to eat. But one of the companions objected and said, Messenger of God, if we did that, then soon we're going to be without food and without right as well. And then it was decided to ration whatever remaining provisions they had, and just simply to be patient and make that last for the rest of the journey until God opens up a way for them. And then it is reported in this tradition that they suddenly found a large fish on the seashore, and that helped them to survive for the remainder of the journey. So several indications like this are there in the tradition, showing that the Prophet, peace be upon him, sought the opinions of his companions.
Mm-hmm. Did he ever seek the opinion but then go the other way, or reject the opinion of others?
I'm not aware that he has actually done this. When it was time to, it is reported that the Muslims had to make a decision whether to face the enemy at what resulted in the Battle of Badr. And there too he sought the opinions of the people. But people were generally cooperative with him anyhow, and though there was some initial hesitation, eventually the overwhelming view was that they would go out with the Prophet, peace be upon him, and defend the frontiers of Islam.
Mm-hmm. So what are the implications then of his sort of engaging in Shura? What does that mean for us today?
Well, what it means for us is that sometimes a person in charge, whether it be in a family situation, and that too, the Prophet, peace be upon him, advised men to seek the opinions of their family members, the women and others in the family.
I believe the Quran also mentions that about, I think, breastfeeding or something like that, that it should be decided upon by Shura.
Exactly, as is done, as a decision that is jointly taken between the husband and the wife, yeah. On how to, the length of breastfeeding the child and so on, whether to hire a wet nurse to help with this service and so on. So yes, the consultation should be done, and the implication is that when one is in charge and one has a certain degree of qualification and ability, one may feel, I don't have to listen to the others because I know what is right. But the Prophet, peace be upon him, was being told, فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلَ عَلَى اللَّهِ. When you have taken when you have made a decision, then put your trust in God. What does it say here? Put your trust in God, because when you make a decision after this kind of consultation, you as a leader may feel that you're not doing like the optimum here, because you're taking the opinions of others, and that those opinions may actually be holding you back from what you feel is the best we can do in the situation. But what do you do in that situation? Well, put your trust in God, because God's blessings will actually be with this decision that is reached after the consultation process. Mm-hmm. And so leaders have to be patient. Often leaders feel they're right, they just do whatever they want. But of course they could be wrong sometimes. And even if they are right, if they do not have the support of the people with them, then the society cannot move forward. We have elements within the society pulling in different directions, and the society is being torn apart.
Mm-hmm. Now the Prophet's example shows that there were the inklings of democracy within that society. How should we translate that today?
Well, we should recognize that society today is much different than it was in that time. And even though, as you said, there were the inklings, or there were the initial indications of democracy, it took a while for this to find full fruition in the Muslim practice. Mm-hmm. And some people look back at some ancient times and they just look at some ways in which things were done, and they want to copy it exactly. But of course, they conveniently overlook some things. And we can't conveniently overlook some things and take some things. We have to see the whole picture. We have to have a theory of how we're going to live as Muslims today, given the early example. And what we have to see in the early examples are basically the inklings or the seedlings, or the initial impetus for the higher aspirations which Islam presents us with. Mm-hmm. And one of the higher aspirations is freedom, democracy, liberty for people. All of this, of course, within the whole ambit of people responding to the revelation from God and developing that Muslim attitude of submitting to God on the whole. Otherwise, we would see that in the lives of the companions of the Prophet immediately after him, that things were not always done with the full benefit of hindsight that we have today. Things were done in a simpler manner given the nature of society and the nature of people at the time. But there was some impetus towards democracy. So we find, for example, that Abu Bakr did not assume the full right of the caliphate until people came to make their pledges to him in the mosque. And when it was certain that a large number of people had made their pledges to Abu Bakr, this was in a sense a majority vote, though it was done in a simple manner. So this is what we need to see, that this is how things were actually done with this broader view in mind. And in today's world, it is more essential that we enact methods to ascertain the views of the people in general.
All right, thank you for that, Brother Shabir. That was very enlightening.
You're welcome.
We'll take a break. When we return, we answer questions we've received from you, our viewers.